All right, hello everyone. My name is Candy Gasparo, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about the foundations of volleyball performance. Throughout the semester, I have been focusing on volleyball as I was a volleyball player, and I'm hoping in the near future to work with volleyball players, hopefully at the D1 level, and being their on-staff sports psychologist. So we're going to kind of dive into the systems that are put into place and everything that kind of makes up volleyball and volleyball success for team success, athlete success, all that fun stuff. So yeah, we're gonna kind of get started here. The team we're going to be kind of focusing on for this presentation and assignment is going to be the Grand Rapids Rise Pro Volleyball Federation team. For those of you who don't know, yes, the United States does have a Pro Volleyball Federation team. This particular team is one of 8, and this team consists of people or girls that played at the collegiate level and now have moved on and want to continue their athletic careers at that pro level. Some just important considerations for this team just moving forward is it's pro, so you're expecting high intensity matches, a lot of physical and mental demands from the athletes themselves and just on the team as a whole. Traveling, lots of traveling, although there are only 8 teams, they're kind of stationed all over the United States, so making time for traveling and making sure the athletes are staying on top of, taking care of themselves while traveling. And then managing injuries and injury prevention techniques is going to be important to consider for this particular team being a pro team and all the physical demands that come along with the intensity and the power and everything that goes into executing successful skills and techniques on and off the court. Some movement patterns to kind of look into when it comes to volleyball athletes is going to be lateral movement, vertical movement, acceleration, deceleration, and rotation movement. All of these are going to come into play at some point for all athletes on the team. So it's just kind of important to emphasize these movements and then look into a little bit deeper of how these movements play a very big role in the physical demands that come with being a volleyball player. Looking at the primary energy systems for volleyball players, on and off the court, a lot of the times you're going to see lactic and lactic playing a very big role in the physical demands for volleyball players. A lot of movement on the court is going to be fast and explosive, especially for hitters. The need for fast, explosive movement is very important. So the lactic system is going to be for blocking, attacking, serving, all the things that require a lot of fast and powerful movements in a short amount of time. So those attacks are not more than a few seconds. And same with blocks is going to be one straight up power to block. So less than about 3 seconds. And then the lactic system is also going to could be for transitioning on and off the net, but fast, powerful. Nothing that takes more than, I would say, probably 5 seconds, the transitions. And all the movement patterns that come along with volleyball are going to be fast and short. So you're not going to see a lot of the aerobic system playing a huge role in the on the court, maybe between sets, but it's not going to be as influential or important as the lactic and lactic systems, which you're going to be able to see when we talk about my macro cycle and how I worked in those systems when it comes to training during the season and off season. So this is the macro cycle I created for this team. You're going to see that there's a lot on there, but we're going to go through it kind of for preseason, in season, and off season. So we're going to kind of work our way through. But this is just the overall macro cycle. You're going to see that the mesocycles include recovery, hypertrophy, strength, power, loaded power, power and speed, and then max performance. As you see, power is mentioned several times, and that's going to be because power is going to be huge for these athletes, making sure that they're channeling all of that energy into their movements. And so I really wanted to emphasize that and how important volleyball or how important power is in volleyball. All right, so starting off in off season. So we just came off of a championship here. We're going to kind of focus for a few weeks on recovery. So bringing down that intensity and doing low to moderate intense exercises. These can be things such as like yoga, just basic rest. A lot of this is going to be aerobic. So this is going to be probably one of the only times ish that you're going to see the energy system aerobic kind of take place throughout the whole macro cycle. And then into the hypertrophy, you're going to see a little bit of that there too. And the lactic system is going to play a very big role in both of those mesocycles here. Working on strength and power, kind of to ease back into things, just focusing on one at a time. And then we're going to kind of start combining them during preseason and then in season as well. For strength and power, we're going to kind of increase that intensity a little bit just to kind of make sure we're not being too relaxed. We want to keep those muscles engaged and making sure the athletes are still staying on top of being where they were, being physically where they were, and not letting them go too long without kind of getting back into it. So yeah, we're going to work on strength and power mostly during the off season, and then we're going to hop into preseason. All right, preseason here, it's going to start probably around beginning of September and go until probably the end of November. During the preseason, we're going to be looking at loaded power, power and speed, and then max performance, kind of gearing up to prepare for in-season work. Moderate to high intensity for each mesocycle here, including box jumps, simple things such as like biking or swimming, and then jump squats, presses, all those things are going to gear the athlete up to that max performance, and then kind of building that muscle, building also that endurance with the speed work. And we're going to kind of gear up for the in-season work here. You're going to see too that the lactic and lactic systems both are going to play a very big role here, because we are working on that power and that explosive power. Making sure the athletes are making quick movements is going to be huge, because quick movements with the speed and the power are going to be so vital for work during the in-season and during games and championships. All right, during in-season, athletes are working on maintaining their performance and not overworking their bodies. So this is why you're going to see a lot of moderate to high intensity, not going too hard in it. And it's important that the athletes are not going to be overexerting themselves, but just being able to hold the progress that they have made during off and preseason. So that's why we're not going to see a lot of super high intensity here. I would say within all the mesocycles, between probably, I would say 65, 70 up to probably around 85-ish intensity percentage. Here you're going to see that so we have strength, power, loaded power, power and speed, and then that max performance right before we taper for that championship at the end of the season, which occurs around mid-May. You're going to see that the lactic and lactic systems are both playing very crucial roles here. And that is because, like I said, on the court, we're going to want to see fast and explosive movements, whether that be a transition off the net or an attack or a quick change of direction from a libero, going to run towards the ball, which also includes speed. So we're going to be working on those as well. All right, so we're going to kind of focus on key performance indicators now. These are all going to be things that are going to be vital for the athlete's success and also just the overall team success. The three that I decided to focus on specifically are going to be the attack efficiency, blocking efficiency, and serving efficiency. All of these are going to be huge. So these are going to be all kind of technical skills that are going to be huge for performance and progress. And to understand how the athlete is progressing throughout the season, there are these indicators that will allow the coaches to monitor their athletes throughout the season. So then if something's not going right, they're going to be able to be like, all right, like the numbers aren't showing, the stats aren't showing that the athlete is still able to maintain. Maybe we should kind of work on load management a little bit, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So measuring attack efficiency could look like just measuring like the percentage of errors or things like that. So you could take the coach could do all of these things and write them down and actually do it themselves. So taking the total kills minus the attack errors, dividing that by the total attack attempts, that's going to be for attack efficiency. Measuring blocking efficiency to track an athlete's blocking efficiency throughout a game or season. Coaches can evaluate and calculate the average number of block kills. And this can be done by taking the total amount of block kills and dividing it by the total sets that were played towards that specific athlete. And then measuring serving efficiency, you could take just calculate the total amount of serves divided by the amount of aces. Unfortunately, you can't see my writing there, but coaches can look into ace percentages and service errors when looking at the athlete's serving efficiency throughout the game or across the season. The coaches can do this, like I said, themselves, or there are things and services that can do this for the coaches, such as Data Volley. There's a ton of platforms out there for coaches to use. It kind of just depends on what they're thinking or what they have access to, but I have heard from previous experience that Data Volley is a great source to use. Other kinds of technology that can be beneficial could be wearable tracking devices such as Catapult. I know those are very popular among D1 teams. That gives the coach a better idea of the internal loads that are going on, not just the external loads that may be impacting the athlete's performance abilities, such as fatigue and other issues like that. All right, now we're going to kind of shift gears here, and we're going to be looking at common injuries in volleyball, which I focused on mainly two. I picked one upper and one lower that we're going to kind of look into here. All right, first up, we're going to look at ankle sprains. Ankle sprains are very common among volleyball players and can account up to about half of volleyball injuries, according to some research. This can occur while playing along the net. Athletes are going to be in close proximity not only to the blocker, but also their other teammates if they are doing a double block, which just increases their chance of injury. Due to physical demands, such as jumping and change of direction, outside and middle hitters are going to be the most at risk here. Some of the biomechanics that can play a big role into an ankle sprain occurring, like I said, close contact with another athlete can occur when an athlete jumps to attack a ball, and they land on the foot of either the blocker or their teammate. I have seen it happen, unfortunately, many times. According to a research study by Reeser and other researchers, half of all sprains occur when a blocker lands on the foot of an opposing attacker who has crossed that center line where the net is. Some risk factors that are going to be important to consider are going to be the history of ankle sprains. A lot of ankle sprains are going to occur to athletes who have already had one previously, and about 80% of sprains are going to be the result of a previous injury, according to a lot of the research that I looked into preparing to talk to you guys today. Approach technique is going to be huge, whether the athlete is doing it properly or not. And then the athlete position is going to be another risk factor. If they are a front row player, they are going to be a little bit more prone to ankle sprain just because of that, like I said, that close contact with other athletes. Reduction of the injury, some things that we can do include improving that approach, implementing blocking drills so the athletes are working together to make sure they're not landing on one another, and then proper warm-ups for the feet are going to be huge to help prevent ankle sprains. All right, second, we're going to kind of focus here on shoulder overuse injuries. There are so many different types of shoulder injuries that can occur, so I just kind of wanted to put it under one big, broad umbrella here. Injuries in the shoulder are going to be common among volleyball players with the high demands and the powerful movements required above the head. And according to research, shoulder injuries make up between 8% and 20% of volleyball-related injuries. Weakness in the rotator cuff can lead to stress on the shoulder stabilizers, which could potentially affect the range of motion for that athlete. Some biomechanics for just shoulder overuse injuries in general are going to be that just shoulder overuse and then repetitive motions such as swings that are putting a lot of stress on the shoulder, especially like I've said, that power, it could, too much power with not enough, not right technique, or other issues that come up could really impact that shoulder movement, creating tendinitis and other issues for the athlete. Some risk factors include history, same thing with like ankle sprains is going to be history of shoulder injuries. Some research does suggest that women are a little bit more prone to shoulder injuries than men, and a weakened core is actually going to be huge. You wouldn't think that because it's not necessarily the body part, but having that, especially for outside hitters, making sure, or just hitters in general, having that strengthened core stabilizes the rest of their body as they make their attack, and that could impact the way that they're hitting. And then some reduction of injury measures that could be taken into consideration are going to be proper warm-up techniques and strengthening exercises for that shoulder within the training that takes place throughout the season. All right, looking at prehabilitation strategies for ankle sprains, these are all types of activities or exercises that athletes can do to help maybe reduce the risk or things that they can do before they even sprain their ankle, such as single leg static balance is going to be huge, single leg squats, and then single leg hops. Single leg allows just for the athlete to focus directly on that particular angle. Having all that weight on that foot is going to be huge for strengthening that individual foot, which is going to make a very big difference. All right, same thing here, but for the shoulders, you could have the athletes do drop squat with an external shoulder rotation, internal shoulder rotation, and band pull aparts. A lot of this is not, you could do weights here, such as cable machines, but with the band, it allows the athletes to kind of do as much as they feel is fit. An athlete that might use like a cable might do too much weight and that could irritate the shoulder. So this allows the athlete to kind of put in as much resistance as they feel is best for them. All right, now we're going to kind of look into load management, and I decided to kind of focus here on internal and external measurements. Implementing load management allows coaches, athletes, and physical trainers to monitor and assess performance abilities, fatigue, and can also be used for injury prevention, which is going to be huge. Some external tests that could be used for load management can include the counter movement jump. It can be used to assess the explosiveness of the athlete, particularly for attackers. And then reactive strength index that can be influential as it has the ability to understand the athlete's ability and using stored elastic energy. Force reactive strength index can be used to monitor the force production of the athlete's lower body and can detect fatigue when the calculated peak performance is lower than the initial test. This is going to be huge too as a big indicator for fatigue. Both of the CMJ and RSI tests can be easily monitored throughout the season. One benefit is that each possess the ability to detect fatigue and decrease performance early on. So this is going to be huge. So being able to catch it early allows the coaches to kind of make those changes fast rather than letting it prolong and maybe resulting in an injury. And then research also suggests that coaches and athletic trainers should implement both internal and external measurements when monitoring athletes. So internal could be heart rate variability and can be used to identify the progress and fatigue of an athlete. Higher HRV is going to suggest that the athlete is adapting and recovering well, while lower HRV suggests that the athlete might be fatigued and being overtrained. This can serve as a red flag to the coaches and trainers to potentially decrease the load put on the athlete and approach workouts, conditioning, and overall demands of the athlete, and kind of change things up a little bit. We're really working here on making sure that we're not overexerting the athlete. We want to make sure we're maintaining the right amount of load per athlete. Not every athlete is going to be the same, so making sure that we're measuring each athlete to their needs is going to be important. Internal and external measurements should be considered as they both play a valuable role in understanding the athlete. They can gather this information to assess throughout the season and keep track both in season, preseason. Just making sure that you're staying on top of the load management for your team is going to be huge, and determining performance throughout your season. All right, lastly here we're going to talk about recovery tools. I did decide to only pick two here to talk about. Cold water immersion and foam rolling are going to be two pretty important ones in recovery for the athletes. According to some research, cold water immersion is going to benefit highly trained volleyball athletes, which is important for this particular team that I've been kind of talking about here. Although there are not immediate effects on this recovery technique, the long-term effects have had beneficial effects on CMJ height, as the results showed that the athletes were able to maintain their height in comparison to the control group that did not partake in the water immersion. Foam rolling also can be very beneficial. It's considered an SMR technique and can provide many benefits to the athletes. Research that I have found suggests that foam rolling can alleviate pain post-exercise and overall be beneficial to athletes. This particular research study suggests that foam rolling can benefit the athletes in performance, reducing blood lactate levels and decreasing muscle soreness overall. All right, here we just kind of have my references. I did do a lot of reading, a lot of studying here to kind of pull this information together. I hope you guys enjoyed my kind of overview of volleyball and for this particular team, the Grand Rapids Rise. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm super excited to talk about this. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.